Hello everybody and welcome. This is Roland Hartmann from graphicINmotion, and in this tutorial I will show you how to customize my corporate video inserts pack template. First of all, I want to show you how you can change the look of all these elements. Afterwards, we will change the titles and change the size of the elements. And in the end, I will show you how you can duplicate and use all these elements. So let's get started. First of all, we want to change the color. You have basically two possibilities to do that. The first one would be to change the color profile, or I should say the overall color profile. And therefore I created the color setup composition. So it should be already open in your timeline. If not, you can find it up here in the project area. So let's open up this composition and then choose the color setup layer. So the green layer right on top here. And you see that we have 4 colors on this layer. And if I change these now, so let's say we want to create a new corporate identity for our client. And I will create something like, don't know, let's take a darker gray here. It looks pretty cool. And maybe some yellow. It's always a nice combination of colors. So a little bit orange, yellow, like that. And I want to leave the color 2 on white, and I will change the color 4 to, do not know, maybe something just a little bit darker so that we have a little bit more contrast in it. Now let's take a look, and I think it looks quite cool. So you saw that all the elements changed accordingly to my color setups here. So you can create an overall look for all your elements pretty easy that way. If you want to change an element individually, you can also do that. And I will show you this now. So I will use the info box left right here, this one, to show you this. And therefore I can just select it here and double click to open it up. Or you can also move to our elements folder, and then you see that we have all the elements in subfolders. So info boxes, you have info box left, right, the list box. Here you have got all the lower thirds and so on. So to change the colors individually here, you have to unlink the color control expressions. And therefore, and this works the same for all the elements, by the way. So you always will find a setup and position control layer, or in some cases, like in some transitions, I think it's called, or in the logo build-up. Let's take a look. Sorry. It's called color setup. Yeah, but it's always the same, always the top layer here. So let's choose this setup and position layer and press U on your keyboard to reveal all the expressions. And now we just disable the expressions by clicking this enable expression button here, and you will see that the colors will change. And now you unlinked the color controls from our color setup layer, and you see now in our preview here that this one looks different. So you know that now this one is not linked anymore, and then you can individually set this up. And I will do this for now quickly. So let's create a little bit different style here. So let's say I want to use the same color, the same base color here, so like this gray here. So I just copy my value for now, and I move to my info box, and let's set this for the big box color. And let's also take it over for the main title. And I want to change the arrow to color so that this looks a little bit different. We had a yellow one. Let's say we need another green one, like so. Okay. And now when we go back to our color setup, you will see that now we have this second look here. Okay, so now let's continue and quickly edit the titles here. So to edit the titles, you only have to click on the text layers. You have the info box title up here, and you have the text, and you have this information text down here. So let's say I want to edit this title and change the size. And now you see that we have a problem because our our box is not big enough anymore, but this is really easy to change. You just select the setup and position layer again. And here you see we have a big box width, we have a big box height, and we have small box width and small box height. So let's choose the small box width here. This is the small box, the white one. So you will find these controls for all elements. You can change all the sizes. So we'll just change it, and I have to move it a bit, and therefore I also can just select my setup and position because everything is linked to this layer. So just select it, setup and position, and then drag the null object so that we can see it again, drag it into the middle. And now we'll just resize it like I need it. So let's say 191 is a good value. So I copy this value, and I will also enter it in my big box width like this. And now you see I have a cool insert. So now I want to change my text, my information text, and I can just do it like this. So let's say I just want to adjust the size, but I do not want to change the content. So I can just drag it like this. And now my box is a little bit too big or too high, so I just need to change the big box height with my slider here like this. And now you see you still have the animation, and you can do this with all the elements. You can do this with the lower thirds, and you can do this with the info boxes and so on. So how can we use these elements now? You basically have three possibilities to use these. If you take a look, if I toggle the transparency grid here, you see that of course it's an alpha channel and it's a little bit transparent also. So you could just render it out as it is, as some kind of a movie file with alpha channel, and then import it into your video editing program, of course. Or you could also use the dynamic link functions that Premiere Pro and Adobe After Effects offer. And the third possibility is to use them directly inside After Effects. So the next possibility to stylize our inserts is to change this texture here. So if you take a look, I will just toggle this again. You see that we have some kind of a texture here. And if you take a look at our layers, you see that we have a texture layer here. And if you move this texture layer, you see that something is happening here. And you see you can stylize that. And we can of course change the transparency, pressing T on the keyboard, make this a little bit more obvious or a little bit more subtle. So you can create your own look here. And of course you can scale it, make it smaller, make it bigger. But I will just change back to standard like this. And now I show you how you can change this texture. So again, if you're working for a client, you can put in whatever the client wants. So I'm in the texture layer or composition right now. You can also find it up here. And you see that there are just two basic shape layers that I've created inside After Effects that are adding this texture to all the elements. So if you take a look, you see everywhere are these squares, these rectangles. And I want to change this now. So let's say our customer has his own style or his own corporate identity, and he wants another texture in here. So let's just import quickly some abstract background. And let's say that this is the corporate identity of our client, and I want to just scale it up because it's a little bit too small to fill the whole screen. And now I will just disable these. I could also delete them, but better to disable them if you want to use them later on. And another good hint is just to quickly tint this texture, that it's black and white. For the most examples, or for the most elements, it will be tinted anyway. I will show you this quickly. Let's go to our color setup, and then you will see what this does. Okay, sorry, I think that I made it invisible. So now, you see now we have this texture in here. And if I just disable the tint, then you will see that in the background we have this color now. And yeah, if you like it, then use it like this. But I prefer to tint my texture, and then I can also work a little bit on my contrast here. So let's go to the color setup and let's take a look what we've got. So you see now we have in the transitions, we have this background, and now also here these elements represent our new style here. So let's say this is our yeah, corporate identity of our client. And now we have to change our texture here in the info box. So let's take this and let's search a nice position. So like so, probably that you see it. And maybe it should be a little bit more obvious. So we increase the transparency a bit, like 50. Okay, so this is it. You can, this is very versatile. You see that you can put in whatever you want. You can put in a picture or everything. And it will be visible in all your elements. And of course, if I now change setup and position, I can drag it around and the style is still the same. So everything is connected to our null object. And now let's say we want to use this in a video. And I've already imported some footage. It's only example footage just to show you. And I will just delete it for now. And let's say we want to add our info box here. So now we just take our info box and drag it in here. And it's a little bit too big, so let's scale it down. And let's put it somewhere here. So we have some information about this nice beach. So this is a very nice beach. And yeah, then we have an edit. Wow, awesome movie. Okay, let's say we want to add some more elements here. So maybe you also want to have a video overlay. Therefore, we move to our overlays and just say we want to have the bottom overlay, drag it on top here. And now you see that our overlay is animating in, and the overlay has, of course, still the same color setup. So maybe we want to change this. Let's just take this green color here and apply it to all our elements. Okay. And now we are, and you will see that it updated. Now we have the new look here. And now, of course, you can change the titles here. So enter the setup or enter the overlay composition. And now you can change the title. So we are at the Cuban beach and some additional info. Okay, I will leave it as it is. Now you go back to our, and now you see we have this overlay. Okay, so what can I do? For example, oops, sorry, I didn't want to move that. I wanted to move that a bit. So now I want to show you how you can change the length of these elements, because this is something that you will need probably sometimes. So maybe you do not want the overlay to end at this point. You want it to stay over the whole 2 shots here. So just select the overlay, right click and select time, enable time remapping. And what you can do now is you can just drag it out and just reposition the last keyframe, and that will stretch the whole animation. So now it will animate in slower, and it will also animate out a little bit slower. But what I prefer to do is I'll just Control C and just undo this. I would just create 2 keyframes. The first keyframe I put in after the build-up animation is finished, so it's about 3 seconds, the 3 seconds mark. So let's add a keyframe here. And now, before we start animating off, and that's exactly right here, around 5 seconds. And now extend it. And now I will take a look. I want this to animate off at 10 seconds, let's say, and I just drag these 2 keyframes over here. And now I have my animation in the end. So now you can change the duration of your elements. And this works the same for all elements. You can do the same with this info box, right click, time, enable time remapping. And yeah, just like that. Keyframe here, another keyframe here, and drag these 2 out to our 10 seconds mark. And now you see that they will disappear. Okay, so this is time remapping. You can use this for all elements, as I said. And now let's say we want to have a transition between our 2 shots here. And therefore I will just move to my transitions, and I will show you these 2. transitions, and let's say I want to use my transition number 3 for now. You see we have 5 different transitions. This is our transition. Of course we want to add a title because it's something like for a new chapter. So we will just enter the transition title, double click on it, and you see now we have a text layer here, and I just can enter my text. So let's say a new chapter. A new chapter for our great movie, and now we move to our com and just drag my transition in here, so exactly to my shots. And okay, now maybe I just end them here, these inserts, and now we have the following: transition, new chapter, new shot. Okay, so now you know how you can use these elements. So what I want to show you now is how you can duplicate certain elements. Basically, most of the elements except the transitions and the list box. You can just duplicate all the elements inside the project folder, with the exception of the list box and the transitions. So I will show you that. So let's say we want to add another info box, and another info box that animates in from the left. So in my elements folder, I only have this one. And if I drag in another one and I want to edit it, I scale it down, and let's say I want to edit, don't know, up here. And I want to edit this title now, and I enter it. And of course, if I change something here, it will affect all the other, or it will affect the other one too, because it is just a copy, or just the same, not a copy, it's just the same info box added 2 times in my video. You see, now we have both changed. But I want to have 2 separated ones. Therefore, you just have to duplicate the element inside the project. So Control D, and now we have info box left 2. Now I can edit the title again. And now I can go back to my insert. I will just delete this one for now, and I will drag in this one. And now you see, okay, now I have my 2 different ones, and I can customize them separately. So this works for all the elements exactly like this. Just duplicate it inside the project window and then drag it into your composition. With the exception of the list box, and I'll show you why. Because the list box has some pre-comps in it. In this case, these are these animated, these titles here. And to duplicate these elements, you have to do a little bit more work. So to duplicate these elements, first of all, we just duplicate our list box inside our project window, and then you see we have list box titles here. And we also want to select all of them and also duplicate them. And now we have the new titles are from 6 to 10. So let's keep that in mind. Now let's enter our list box 2 title, or list box 2 insert, I should say. And you see list box title 1, and we want to replace this one with our 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, these titles. And I will just show you this now. Let's select list box title 1. Let's take the list box title 6, drag it down, hold down Alt, let your mouse button go, and now it's replaced. And we will just do this with all the other elements. 8, 9, and 10. And now you have got 2 completely separated list box. So let's edit, let's say title 1, title 01. Let's go back to our list box. You see now it's updated. Of course, I can change the main title. I will just call this list box 01. And now we go to our list box 02, and let's edit this title. Let's say we want to edit title 02, and let's go back, list box 2, and now you see we have 2 different boxes that we can use. Now I want to show you one more thing, and this is how you can duplicate the transitions, because the transitions are a little bit special too. So, and especially if you want to use them with the transition titles. So if you do not want to use the transition titles if you want the transition just with a texture, you can enter the transition here. We are inside transition 1 now. And then I press this hide all layer button, and you see that we have some pre-comps here, and we just unlock them for now. And then you see, if you disable them, you can see what they do actually. This is the layer with the texture and the title, and then yeah, this is the other layer with the texture and the title. So to duplicate transitions, what you have to do is the following. You just select the transition again inside the project window and press Ctrl D, duplicate it. Now we see that, or you see that we duplicated transition 1. So I want to duplicate transition title 1 too. And now I have transition title 1, transition 1 title 2, but I want to change it in transition 6 title. Now I will open up my transition 6. And now what you have got to do is you have got to duplicate these layers. But you do not want to duplicate them inside the timeline. You want to duplicate them inside our project window. Therefore, you just have to find them. And therefore, you just right click and say reveal layer source in project. And now you see that we jump into our pre-comps folder and we are exactly at this layer. So I will duplicate this for now. And now it creates our layer 1.4, but I want to call this layer transition layer 6.3. And I want to do the same here. Select it, right click, reveal source, and then just duplicate it, Ctrl D, and rename it. And now you see that we have our our new layers down here. So let's just replace them. I'll just drag this down here, and I will just drag this down here. Also, always press Alt and release the mouse button, and then you're good to go. So nothing changed. Okay, why nothing changed? Because I of course have to exchange the title too. So now I will just select my title 6 that I created before, and I will just drag it in here like this, and I will do the same at this layer. So just select the title 6 and just replace it, and now I will just edit the title quickly so that we see what I did here. So we just change this to title 6, and now we have transition 1 with our title, and we have transition 6 with our other title. So this is how you can duplicate the list boxes and how you can duplicate the transition boxes. And as I said, all the other elements, all the lower thirds. Let's take a look at the lower third because we didn't use them now. So all the lower thirds you can just duplicate in here. So let's say, oops, sorry, didn't want to do that. So let's say I want to duplicate my lower thirds, 2 lines, number 1. I will just add a title here that it is number 1. I go in here, press Ctrl D and enter it. And let's say this is number 2 now. And you see now we have our insert number 1, insert number 2. Of course, I can also change the size here. And let's type in 70 here too. You can also create something like that, or however you want to adjust it. And now you have your lower third. One thing I forgot to point out is we have this logo layer here, but you probably already found out what it is. And it basically is just the layer that controls which logo appears in here. You see that we have a logo build-up, and we have these layers or these lower thirds with logos in there. And you can of course exchange this logo very easily. So let's do that as a last step of our customization. And I'm sorry that this tutorial is really long, but yeah, there is so much to do here, you know, I have to show it to you. And let's go to import a new file, and let's import the Envato logo, and let's drag it in here. Now let's just scale it up so that it's a little bit bigger. Approximately the size as the placeholder here, like this. And now I will just mask it out because I only want the logo, I do not want the text. And I disable the placeholder, and now I go back to my color setup, and you see now the new logo appears right inside our logo squares. Okay, so this is it. Sorry for the duration of this video. I know it's a little bit long, but I think that I covered everything that is interesting for you guys if you purchase this pack. I hope that you like it. I hope that it's useful for you, that you can create nice inserts for your corporate video productions. Thanks for watching, and I really hope to see you soon. Goodbye.